Hey, before we dive into some of these videos we're going to watch today, and I know you and I laughed throughout this video as well. We just want to make sure everyone is safe out there, and we don't want to make light of a situation that may have impacted you. So just be aware of that as you're watching these videos. And we, again, safety first, right, Andy?
Yeah, for sure. In the ag industry, you're out there in the field every day, and, things do occur. We're going to talk about some of those today, but always keep safety top of mind.
Welcome to Around the Farm, the podcast about all things ag. We got multiple hosts today. I'm Tom Versman. I'll let the other hosts introduce themselves in just a moment. But hey, we're doing a fun episode today. Andy, why don't you jump in introductions and maybe let's talk about why today is going to be a good time on Around the Farm.
Yeah, Andy Folta. I'm happy to join. This is my third time joining, I think now.
Third time, all right.
And this should be an exciting time because I don't think either of us or Julie know what we're about to experience. Is that right?
That's true. Julie, introduction, and what are we looking at? You got the paper, at least. You do have the background, but I know we're going in a little.
I've got the answer sheet. You guys are going in blind, but I'm Julie. I am a content marketing specialist for Climate FieldView. And today we're just going to go through some stories to keep people company when they're out in the cab.
Some fun in-cab stories, and hey, we'll see what we got. Maybe let's jump to the first one, and that'll help us understand a little bit of what we're getting into. But hopefully, you all have a good time with this as well. So, Julie, let's go to the first video.
This first one that we're going to do, I believe we're going to Iowa. We're going to check in with our friend Jerry.
Hey guys, Jerry Ascensions here. I farm in northwest Iowa, Kingsley, Iowa. I was asked what was a funny story on the farm, and one that popped into my mind was a few years back. This is probably late summer. I go over to the bin site to start working on the bins, get it ready for harvest. And I noticed across the road, there was a helicopter sitting there, which is kind of odd. When I mean sitting there, it was sitting in my field. So I go over and check it out, make sure no one was hurt or anything. Didn't find anyone around, didn't see anyone. So I go back to the bin site, which is just literally across the road, and was working on some stuff, and I see a white pickup come, and they go over by the helicopter. So I went over to see, hey, if they needed some help or wanted something. And the pilot says to me, he says, well, I was flying all day. I had some bad food, and I really had to go to the restroom. So I just landed it where I had to go and had someone pick me up and run to town. So that was a pretty good story. Talk to you later.
That's a tough day right there. I might be a little disappointed. Could have been good fertilizer.
I was going to say that the guy showed a lot of restraint because he actually had somebody pick him up and drive him to town.
I mean, how high was the corn?
Yeah, it depends what time of year it was, I guess. Did he say corn or was it beans?
It could have been beans.
My question is, what time of year was it? Because, if it's right after planting season and it's beans, then he might have just been trying to act in self-preservation.
God bless. That could have been something. But hey, it was nice that there wasn't any big issue, I guess, that came out of it. He got picked up. I mean, that's first-class service.
When the story started, I kind of thought that Jerry was just going to get a free helicopter out of the deal.
Somebody the keys were in it.
Yeah, parked it, left it. I don't know how you claim that on your taxes, but a helicopter's a helicopter.
All right, and now we're going to go to our next one. I don't know anything about this video, so let's go ahead and give it a view.
Looking for something funny that happens on the farm is kind of an everyday occurrence. Actually, on my voicemail right now, I have a thing that says, if you're looking for a circus, just look for us. We're somewhere working in northern Indiana. While I'm out here in the shop doing inventory, my mind goes back years ago. My son was probably 4, 5, 6 years old. And we were going to work in the field all night, and he wanted to be with Dad. So we went to the convenience store, and we were all going to buy some snacks. And Zachary came to the counter, and he had Mountain Dew. And I said, no, Zach, you can't have Mountain Dew. I said, take that back and get some fruit punch or something. So pretty soon he comes up and he says something on the counter that was red, and I didn't think anything of it. We paid for it and left. And about an hour later, he was riding with one of our employees, and he called and he goes, my God, this kid is off the wall going nuts in this tractor cab. And I said, well, what's going on? And here, that what I thought was fruit punch actually was Code Red Mountain Dew. he outsmarted me, and it was when Code Red was brand new.
The old Code Red switcheroo.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Baja Blast was our usual switch.
Do you remember Pitch Black?
No.
I'm going back. Maybe I'm again dating myself here, but Pitch Black was big, I would say, from I'm gonna go high school time, if I remember right.
What was your favorite go-to snack? What would you do?
Go-to snack. I'll be honest, I'm not much of a snacker. I was more of I'd rather just like have a piece of meat. To be totally honest.
I could tell. No, I do. Thanks for asking. I do Twizzler pulling peels.
I'm back at you full time.
Twizzler pulling peels and Sundrop. Being a good Missouri kid.
Yeah, that's right.
Julie, what about you? Are you on the fruit snack or a hunk of meat?
So I like to have a full spectrum of the Mountain Dews, every Mountain Dew available, and then just go through them in order until, I feel like I'm vibrating on a different plane of existence.
Yeah.
That's my strategy. Yeah, what are your guys' like cab snack combos? I know some people will have the Oreos and the Goldfish, or the Oreos and the jerky. That's another really popular combo.
Realistically, right? If I'm gonna go for some type of snack, it would probably be Chex Mix or Trail Mix. Get a little sweet, little salt, something like that. A good mix up there. I'll tell you though, my wife is addicted now, and she's got me. I'm not a big snacker, but these gummy nerd things.
Oh, nerd gummy clusters.
Nerd gummy clusters.
Yeah, the wild berry flavor.
She bought a pack on our trip. Yeah, wow. That might have to be on my list as well.
Yeah, my wife and I are big nerd gummy cluster fans. But personally, I'm an ice cream guy, and I'm one of those weirdos that also puts gummy bears in my ice cream, and they get rock hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just break your teeth. My wife's a dentist, though, so it's all cool.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Shout out.
It's on the family plan.
It's on the family plan.
But that's why you guys got into like the nerd gummy clusters, right? She needs to keep the business going so that people need dentistry. Yeah.
Yeah, we open them up, slip her card in, and we seal them.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next video today.
What do you got for us, Julie?
Oh, it's Dave again.
In farming, we depend a lot, and we really shouldn't, on advisors. One advisor that we still listen to and should not would be a weatherman. Several years ago, we were cutting soybeans, and it was one of those days that they just cut beautiful. And it was prediction for heavy rains the next 2 days. So one of my operators said, "Hey, Dave, let's go ahead and cut all night, and then we'll sleep tomorrow while it's raining." I said, "Oh, man, I'm tired, but I guess let's go." So we cut beans all night. We quit about 5 a.m. and went home, went to bed. At about 11 a.m., I woke up, and the next 2 days were the most sunny, beautiful days that we had had all fall. So moral of that story is, if you're tired, don't pay no mind to the weatherman. Go get some rest.
I really appreciate that. And I would agree, if you're tired, you should definitely stop, take a rest. Safety,
Be safe.
Safety never sleeps. I do think that weathermen and women are underappreciated. They do a great job. But if you want to take that responsibility on yourself and utilize some of the background data we have in Climate FieldView, you can always go in your historic weather data and look at what happened last year. Not saying it's going to be a great indicator of this year, but it's a place to start.
A very corporate response there, Folta. Well representing FieldView. I definitely. It's funny. I think when he says that, I think back a little bit to when I was working with you on FieldView as well, and I think about some of the hail alerts before we maybe fixed the algorithm. A lot of work did to get in that, and that algorithm today is come a long way and is pretty darn close. But we used to even say, what was it? It was workable. Maybe don't work.
Yeah.
Red, yellow, green.
Yeah, the tractor.
The tractor.
Yeah.
The tractor, right? And I don't think a lot of folks didn't necessarily like that we told them
we pivoted.
When they
we moved away from that.
But, I think there is something to be said about, at least taking all the sources for granted and making sure you kind of play your cards right with the weather. But, hey, the lesson learned for me there is when you're tired, get some sleep.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And also have a snack.
Have a snack. Julie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think listening to your gut is always a good perspective. And like his first reaction was, I don't want to work through the night. I'm tired. And I think that's a worthy thing to listen to. I think there's like a huge culture of rushing during harvest season. And sometimes if you have that opportunity to just take a break, you should really take it, So.
That's right. Safety first.
Safety first. It never sleeps, like Andy said.
Never sleeps.
All right. So now I've got some written stories to share with you guys. Okay, so the next story, it's called The Bumpy Ride. And this story is from Kim. My dad told the story from when he was a teenager. He was working the fields with an International W6 tractor, pulling a hefty 10-foot chisel plow. One day, the tractor hit a bump so hard it tossed him right off the seat. He landed on the ground and got dragged through the chisel plow. Covered in dirt and shocked by what just happened, the adrenaline kicked in. Instead of panicking, he jumped up, he ran after the moving tractor, and climbed back on. Without missing a beat, he continued plowing the field as though nothing had happened. The family always got a kick out of imagining the scene. My dad bouncing off the tractor, dust flying everywhere, then sprinting to catch up and hopping back on like some kind of action hero.
Well, safety first. Let's just again, safe. Please be safe.
Happy that it was not more
happy. Nothing
serious.
Bad happened there. But it's always good to have those stories that, maybe when they happened it wasn't funny, but you can certainly laugh about later.
Yeah.
But again, safety, can't say it enough after hearing that.
I know. I'm going to guess that
first.
came from Reader's Digest.
Reader's Digest.
I'm glad that it wasn't more serious. I will say I have a similar story from my family.
Okay, let her rip.
So my grandma, Ethel Jean Folta, she and my grandpa.
Say your grandma's Ethel Jean Folta?
Yeah, first, middle, last.
Love that.
Great name.
They were farmers, and she was driving the tractor and pulling a plow. And I think it was her first time driving it by herself. And she didn't know how to stop and turn. And so she just kept going, and she plowed through a fence. And then she made a big arc and turned and drove through a different part of the fence. You'd think you'd go through the same hole, but she just plowed through another spot. And my grandpa was a very calm guy. They called him Judge because he was as sober as a judge. And he had a very flat reaction of, well, I guess we'll just fix the fence.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted a new fence there.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
All right, the next one we've got is called The Rainy Day Mow. And this story is from Devin. I learned to drive a tractor young and spent my summers tedding and raking hay. One day, I was mowing the lawn when I noticed the sky darkening. Being 12 and thinking I was pretty smart, I decided to stop mowing because it looked like rain. When my dad saw me standing around, he asked why I quit. I told him it was going to rain. He just laughed and said, "We'll see about that," and drove off on the four-wheeler to check a field. Not long after, the heavens opened up and it started pouring, one of those torrential downpours that soaks you to the bone in seconds. I went inside and my mom and I listened to the rain hammering the roof. Soon enough, we heard the familiar sound of the four-wheeler approaching. In walks my dad, completely drenched. You can hear the water squishing in his shoes with every step. He looked like a drowned rat, water dripping from his nose and pooling around his feet.
Well, first, I think it's really timely that we talk about that after one of our other stories about the weatherman never being right. In this case,
that is very good.
The sun was
good
the
correlation.
weatherman. Yeah, and he was right.
Good correlation.
And my second thought is that was a good mindset that he had to stop and not continue mowing before it rained, because I would have just thought I should just drive faster to try to get it done.
Well, some of the equipment maybe you can now.
Yeah.
Today, right? But when you're mowing, you don't want to tear up your yard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never any good.
How good is mowing?
You know what? If we want to go down that path, we certainly can. It is, and I love my family, love my kids.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that 30, 45 minutes, we don't have too big of a yard, but that is me time.
Yeah, you riding a zero turn, or you got
I'm pushing, man.
Pushing?
Getting the leg workout in and everything.
I should push mow. I should.
I'd love a zero turn, but I don't have an excuse. Quarter acre lot doesn't have an excuse for a zero turn.
Yeah.
I want it to take at least 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a push mower, like it's literally powered by Julie. So I get out there maybe once every 3 to 4 weeks if I'm feeling squirrely. But it is a battle every moment that I'm out there. So
you say solely powered by Julie?
Yeah.
Is it an electric mower or is it a gas mower, or you're just?
It's one of those. It's a spinny wheel.
A blade, and
she
has a scythe. She actually just goes out there. She has to let the grass get tall enough. Yeah.
She just rips all day. Yeah.
Yep.
It's got to be good for your golf swing.
All right. So the runaway tractor. Do we have
runaway tractor.
Any guesses what this one's going to be about?
A combine that got loose.
That's a good one. Ooh, that's a pricey mistake.
Yeah.
All right. One summer before my senior year of high school, I took a job helping out at a neighbor's farm. One evening, after finishing some work, I was moving round bales to the edge of the field when some net wrap got tangled in the tractor loader. Knowing the owner was meticulous, I decided to stop and remove the wrap rather than making a bigger mess. I set the parking brake, but in my hurry, I forgot to turn the wheels or park across the hill. The owner had warned me not to trust the parking brake, but being a teenager, I thought I knew better. Sure enough, the brake let go and the tractor started rolling backward. It picked up speed, barreling down the hill for a good 100 yards before crashing into the woods. The tractor smashed through the underbrush, shattering all the glass in the cab, and finally came to a stop against a sturdy tree. The impact crushed the fluid-filled rear tire and bent the rim into a pretzel shape. I was sure I'd just totaled the tractor and would owe thousands of dollars. When I nervously approached the owner, he just chuckled and said, "Well, looks like you had quite the adventure. Don't worry about this. You're a young guy. You'll have an opportunity to pay it forward someday. Just remember this."
So that makes me think a little bit. Before we jump into that, I did not grow up on a farm. For anyone listening that I haven't talked to before doesn't know that. I grew up here in St. Louis. And my first field job with Bear, safety's, and we've talked about it today. Safety's extremely important.
Yeah.
I was told I needed to order a few things. Wheel chalk was on that list. And I'd never towed anything. Didn't know, what I needed. So I'm thinking, okay, well, my truck has 4 wheels. I obviously need 4 wheel chalks. So I was as safe as it gets.
Yeah.
When it comes to that thing was going nowhere. So anyway, I learned that when I had to explain my expense report. Why do you have 4 $50 wheel chalks on there?
Like you don't want me to be safe?
You don't want me to be safe?
Yeah.
So I was able to distribute to the rest of the team at least.
Yeah. I'm glad he didn't try to jump on. I know that's one thing you wouldn't want to do.
Good call. Yeah.
Wouldn't want to do. But I'm also glad that his boss was understanding. It reminds me of my dad. I had not similar, it wasn't nearly as dramatic, but I was pushing brush with a skid loader, and we had a grapple bucket. I was pushing brush forward. I wasn't paying attention, I'll be honest. I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And a limb came up underneath the bucket and smashed the windshield out of the skid loader. And I called Dad, and Dad's response was, "Well, I guess that's a good place to stop for the day."
Well, that's very nice of him.
Yeah.
How did he? Has he paid forward any favors? Are they still working together?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a sequel here. Do you have any insight, Julie?
So in my research on that story, he had ended it by saying that he had not yet had the opportunity to pay it forward, which I feel like is a little lazy. I feel like you could always find an opportunity to pay it forward, but that's
maybe his way
just
of
me.
paying it forward is telling the story so that others will pay it forward.
I was really hoping
on his
you're
behalf.
kind of the romantic side. You're gonna say, well, he ended up marrying his daughter, and like they have grandkids now, and that's how he paid it forward, But sounds like there's still work to be done there.
Yeah.
Unfinished business. Yeah, no, one thing I was surprised about were how many stories were that story. Essentially, like equipment is always rolling down a hill. So just make sure that you always use every precaution is what I would say. Make sure that you're parking cross with the hill or using
Use twice as much protection as you should.
Use 4 wheel chalks. Why not?
4 times as much. It's definitely not going to mess up then. All right, so now we're going to go out on a good one. I'm going to see how you guys feel about this. So this is the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. The Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, also known as the Hopkinsville Goblin case, took place on the evening of August 21st, 1955, near the rural town of Kelly in Christian County, Kentucky. The incident began when a group of family members claimed to have seen strange lights in the sky and heard noises outside their farmhouse. Upon investigation, they reported encountering small humanoid creatures described as around 3 feet tall, with metallic skin, large heads, glowing eyes, and talon-like hands. The family, fearing for their safety, allegedly engaged in a prolonged gun battle with these entities, which reportedly continued for several hours. The witnesses claimed that despite being shot at, the creature seemed unaffected by the gunfire and continued to approach the house and peer through the windows. Eventually, the family fled to the local police station to report the incident. Local law enforcement officers who visited the farmhouse afterward found no evidence of the creatures, but did observe numerous bullet holes in walls and windows. The encounter gained widespread media attention, attracting reporters, investigators, and curious onlookers to the small town of Kelly. While some dismissed the incident as a hoax or misinterpretation of natural phenomena, others believed the witnesses to be sincere in their accounts. The story became a notable case of UFO lore and has since been the subject of numerous investigations, documentaries, and debates among ufologists and skeptics alike.
I gotta be honest, it sounds like they went to the Kelly local bar and stayed there a little too long.
A few too many drinks, I guess, maybe, but
had too much Code Red.
That's what it was. Full circle.
It's the Code Red.
Too much Code Red and too much Mountain Dew. That's an interesting one. I don't know where you found that one, Julie. I'm kind of interested on the source. That seems definitely like a Reddit.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like Reddit. Have you ever had a weird experience like that, Tom?
Weird. I have not. I'm going to knock on wood. I have not had a weird experience, Fulton. But you know what? You've had an experience for every experience we've had. So if you happen to have a weird
I'll say I don't want to be that guy that's always got a story.
You always got a story. Have you had a UFO experience?
I mean, do I believe UFOs are real? Not really. Do I think aliens are out there 100%? But I lived in western Montana for a couple years while I worked for Bear, and I drove home to Missouri once during COVID, so I didn't stay in a hotel, so I just drove straight, and it was a 23-hour drive. And I got around Lincoln, Nebraska. It was like 2 a.m., and I saw two really bright flashes of light that were about a minute apart. So I was going 70 miles an hour. So I had probably driven a mile, and I saw in the a different area a flash of light. So I'm not saying it was aliens, but it probably wasn't aliens.
Were you drinking Code Red?
I was, no. I actually, you know what? I drank like 8 bottles of Gold Peak Unsweet Iced Tea on that drive.
That might do it.
That was probably doing it. My iron levels were off the charts.
But no, that's interesting. Julie, any goofy experience like that? I mean, that one's
besides all the podcasts you've done with Tom.
Yeah, we've had some fun on the podcast, but nothing. We have not interviewed anyone that's had that experience except for you, Fulton.
I mean, it was just a flash of light, but it wasn't Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, a flash of light can happen to anyone, I guess. I haven't had any direct encounters yet. I'm open to it. So, do a lot of driving in rural areas. I'm just waiting.
Are you putting yourself in the right areas?
I'm getting all of my iced teas lined up, all of my Code Reds lined up, and
Well, I've heard Arizona's a nice place to experience Roswell.
Yeah, that's right. And Julie, when you usually go out for work, you have cameras with you. You have a crew with you. I mean, maybe look at that footage a little closer. Never know.
Yeah, it's worth looking into. Something did happen pretty recently. We had the Northern Lights. There was like some kind of solar storm where there was energy in the atmosphere, so we could see the Northern Lights down here in Missouri. And so I walk my dog every night, and I was like in the park with my dog, and I was like looking at the sky, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I was like confused because there were like pillars of light and it was like pretty colorful. And I had heard about it on the radio that day that we would have the Northern Lights, but it still took me a good 5 minutes of looking at the sky to figure out what was going on. And then for the next couple of days, I was just like suspicious every time I looked at the sky because in our normal day-to-day life, the sky does like 5 things, and it's like really predictable what it does. And then just one day, it's like, you know what? I'm going to do something you've never seen before. And that's pretty suspicious.
Interesting. Interesting. Appreciate all the stories we've had so far, Julie. Did a great job reading through some of those. But one that always, for whatever reason, I thought was just too funny was my grandpa on their farm. They have some trails they've carved out in the woods. They were always fun as a kid to go out there, 4-wheeler, what have you. And he was mowing the trail, and him and his best friend used to go out together. He's mowing the trail, but his buddy would usually walk in front of the tractor, make sure there was no big trees down, big pieces of wood, any limbs in the road, just so he wouldn't run over it or damage the mower. And there's a point where you turn around and you come back and you kind of go back through where you came. And at that point, there was a huge hornet's nest on the ground. And my grandpa was making that U-turn and ran right over it. And his buddy was behind him, kind of doing the right thing, trying to stay out, again, being safe, not being in front of the tractor. And this was my grandpa's best friend. And my grandpa, I wish he was alive to tell the story. He could probably tell it better than I, but he just said to him, he goes, "Hey, I really love you, but I'm going to keep on going." And he said he'd never seen him run so fast after that.
Best of luck, Jim.
Best of luck. It just got away. I mean, he said it was the biggest swarm of hornets he's ever seen.
Fight or flight. Sometimes you just got to survive.
Just got to go.
Yeah.
Just got to go. So Anyway, any come to mind for you that your family or anyone close to you's gone through?
I've got lots of great stories. Well, so my great grandpa mowed off 2 toes on one of his feet, and then he shot 2 toes off on another foot. I could tell you about.
Well, I tell you what, I think maybe from a time perspective,
okay,
we should save those for another episode. I guess leave a comment below if you're interested in that story.
Or if you've ever lost toes.
Yeah, let's safety again. Can't hit safety enough. We'll catch that one another time. Folta, Julie, appreciate you jumping in with us today too. Always love having this. This is great. We got you in the studio with us at a different angle, so a lot of fun. But hey, this has been Around the Farm, and thanks for joining us today. And we hope everyone's having a great summer so far and you're being safe out there. If this is your first time watching, be sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts. And then again, we'll see you next time Around the Farm.